Hey, what's going on, everybody? Movie Phantom here, and yes, Saturday night, and it's time for the Movie Phantom's horror review. This week we are doing The Curse of Frankenstein and Darkness Falls, and these are both these were requested from 13th Wolfman, and from an old list, so it wasn't, you know. We all know that Christopher Lee passed away this past week, and I did not plan it like this. You know, I was planning on doing this, review anyways. And believe me, if it was to be a tribute, I would not pair it up with Darkness Falls, I'll tell you right now. But, since I haven't talked to you guys since then, yes, Christopher Lee did pass away, so it sucks. But he was 93 years old. That's the main thing you gotta remember. So, I mean, come on. He rocked it out. He did Star Wars, James Bond, Lord of the Rings, Dracula, a ton of horror films. So, I mean, Wicker Man. Not that Nick Cage abortion. So, thanks for the memories, Christopher Lee. And hopefully, I can do it some justice right here with a review of The Curse of Frankenstein. So right off the bat, let's hit Curse of Frankenstein, 1957. Hammer's first Frankenstein movie. This is pretty much just a remake of the Universal Frankenstein movie. Updated, for its time. The basic premise here, and it does differ slightly, but a young Victor Frankenstein, he basically, his mom just dies, and he inherits, the entire vast, fortune, Frankenstein fortune. So he gets all the money and everything. And so he hires himself a tutor. And this tutor, helps him, but they start kind of pushing into darker territory, if you will. And then, of course, he becomes curious with, he wants to create life. And it starts off, I'm not sure if they found a dead dog or if they killed the dog. I mean, I don't think they would kill it. But anyway, there's a dead dog in this water. And then they bring it back. So they're like, well, he wants to be human next. And so it goes from there. Now, at this point, you guys already know the Frankenstein story. I'm not going to go through every single scene for you guys. But I will tell you now, I like this better than any Universal Frankenstein offering that I've seen thus far. Any of the crossover movies, whatever case. I have seen a couple of the Hammer, and this goes for Dracula or Frankenstein, whatever, movies before, but it's been a long time ago. In fact, I think I watched it a long time ago, like on Encore or something like that, and I was a little fan of them. So, really, it was like, and I'm not sure if I've seen this one or not. So whenever anybody would ask me if I've seen it, I'd be like, well, I've seen a Hammer, Frankenstein movie or a Hammer Dracula movie, but I can never remember which ones I have or haven't seen. So, yeah, and I don't think I've seen this one before. And you know what? I fucking loved it. Oh my god. This is, if I'm mistaken, let me know. I think this is the first time we get Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee teamed up. Peter Cushing, of course, plays Dr. Frankenstein, and Christopher Lee is the monster, or the creature, as they call him, in the credits on this. To me, it felt like it was moving along pretty, like the pace for this movie moved along pretty quickly, and it was interesting. I think one thing about the old Universal movies, and the man with no name, buddy of mine, he kind of agrees with me on this one, that some of the older movies, I mean, even though they're iconic and they're just they do tend to kind of drag, or there are a lot of slow parts, or and as much as I do like my movies to have that character development or whatever, sometimes you just gotta agree, like the original Dracula I'm just not big on. And honestly, when I did my review for Bride of Frankenstein, I said this for Frankenstein, that I just thought the first Frankenstein movie just really like at this point the story or whatever. But here it seems like they kind of tweaked a few things now. Whereas in the first movie they just found a corpse, put a different brain in it, and boom. And here it seems like his the first thing they do is it has no head, or the head it had was damaged or whatever, or the eye, they had new eyes or whatever. But so they basically it's like they kind of constructed the pieces, give him the hands of a sculptor, And it's almost like, he's wanting to create life, but he's wanting to create, like, good life. Like, not just, it seemed like in the first one, they were just like, we're going to create man just because we can. And here he's just like, no, I want to create a person. Now, granted, as it goes on, he does just kind of go mad a little bit and decide to say, fuck it, we'll just, whatever. But, it is like he is kind of assembling, the perfect man at the time. The hands of the sculptor. Then was a mentor or just happened to be like a famous professor in the area. Either way, they try to get his brain. I forget the guy's name now. Was it Paul? That seems like an odd name for back then. Maybe it was Paul. I don't know. The buddy, his tutor, until the tutor that kind of turns on Frankenstein. Dude, I did not like this guy at all. Like, even when Frankenstein does go dark. Because initially you're like, and I still blame the tutor, because I'm like, if you would have wrote it out with Frankenstein, it probably wouldn't have been that bad. You could kind of try to steer him a little bit, Granted, his goal is to create man, to give the dead life. But at the same time, maybe you could have helped steer him away from killing people to achieve that. And he did. He was just like, I'm walking away. But he don't walk away. He sits around and whines forever and fucking tries to get the girl. He clearly has a heart-on for her. But, she's not interested. And who would be? He's a little whiny bitch. So the whole time, it's that whole thing. Oh, and the cousin, Elizabeth, played by Hazel Court, the lovely Hazel Court. But yeah, no. So it's like, as I'm watching it, there's several times where I'm like, no, this is clearly his fault. Like, he's the one to blame for a lot of this shit, So yeah, I mean, the brain for one, it was a nice brain. Boom, that's it. But you already said you wash your hands up, and he starts like fighting with him. And of course the brain gets damaged and there's broken glass and whatnot. And you're like, well, okay, now this thing turns out to be a psychopath. It's your fault. Way to go, asshole. Boom. Literally, he could have just walked away and it could have been a different movie. But no, he's like, keeps interjecting and throwing himself in there. He's like, I'm gonna this wine and this. So, and it's weird because even when Dr. Frankenstein's just being a complete asshole and starts, the situation I'm thinking of, the chambermaid, Josephine, I think is her name. He's banging her. I don't know if he ever banged his cousin. He was arranged to marry his cousin, which I'm not judging. It was England, 18-something, They did things differently over there. Whatever. If my cousin was Hazel Court, I'd probably bang the shit out of her too. Anyways, but no, so he's just such an arrogant asshole to Josephine, and even her, I'm just like, bitch, just walk away. Like, you had to know what this was. You were just a chambermaid. You were a chambermaid, and this dude had money. He banged you out of convenience, and he has shit to do now. And guess what? She, started fucking around, and then she kept making these empty threats. I'm like, just walk away. Like, you're poking the bear right now. If you just keep your mouth shut and walk away, you won't get hurt. But she's like, I'll go to the authorities. Blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what, bitch? You wound up dead. Boom. You leave Peter Cushing alone. Peter Cushing's got shit to do. He ain't got time to be bothered with this fucker named Paul, I think is his name, and Josephine. No, he's got it to do. He wants to bang Hazel Court on the side, but keep her to the side. He's got science stuff to do. He's got to, resurrect, Christopher Lee, and they've got to do shit together. Yes, no, this movie is just all around really good. And once again, I mean, I'll put it above any of the Universal Frankenstein movies. I think it's just awesome. It's kind of cool too because I've never seen it before. They clearly, Rocky Horror Picture Show got some inspiration from this movie. In Rocky Horror Picture Show, there's this like tank aquarium thing that Rocky's in, mummified inside of it, and they fill with water and they give him life or whatever. And that thing is in the Curse of Frankenstein, so you can see that's where they got it from. But I'm watching, I'm like, oh shit, Rocky Horror, that's awesome. I get giddy whenever I do get one of those references. But yeah, no. The movie's really good. The ending, I didn't care much for, because we all know how it's going to end or whatever. We know, it's not going to end great. But see, in the original one, they definitely, like, in the Universal ones, they, definitely make the, Dr. Frankenstein a little more sympathetic. Whereas, I mean, he don't really have any darkness to him at all, hardly. Like, he is just kind of like, yeah, I'm a good guy. I'm all-American good guy over here. Whereas, with this one, I mean, no, there is definitely some darkness to him, but you're kind of, like, I don't know, maybe you're not. I was rooting for him. Like, I was just kind of like, oh, I hope Frankenstein makes it. Like, fuck it, yeah. And what pissed me off is like, he didn't, I mean, he did commit some murders, but the murders were trying to tie to him. He didn't do, like, okay, yeah, he locked Josephine, but fuck it, you could, they didn't have CSI back then, fuck it. the monster killed Josephine or whatever, but he, you know, gets kind of blamed for that shit. And the whole time, Paul and Elizabeth, they're just kind of like, they basically leave him out to dry. I'm like, really, Paul? You are such a cocksucker, I swear. And Elizabeth, you should be more grateful. He gave you all this money early on. Because that's one thing, too, like, you know, in the very beginning, that's the one that I just didn't like the family. Like, I don't know, everybody's like, you know, maybe people will be like, oh, Frankenstein's just cold or what. It's like, no, like, his family was only there after the mom died. Clearly, they were there for their monthly allowance, you know, for that, you know, the mother supported her sister and her daughter, which was Elizabeth, and that really seems the only reason they were there. Like, they're clearly, you know, maybe they're like, oh, yeah, we're here because, you know, we're sorry for your loss, but let's not forget why we're really here, the money. And I'm just like, I don't know, I didn't like her from that moment on. I was like, eh. So, I don't know, I was okay with Frankenstein just being kind of a douche to him and neglecting or whatever. That's just me personally. No, direction is really good on here. The music is great. The one scene I really dug, like the one camera shot, it just, I don't know. And once again, I've never seen anything from this. I don't know if this is iconic or not, but to me it was just great, is the first reveal of the creature. And of course it zooms right in and up on Christopher Lee and everything, and boom, there he is, you know, larger than life. He also did make it kind of, you know, very sympathetic creature, but it seemed like he went more on a murder rampage, you know. Like, before it seemed like he was just kind of like, you know, I don't want to use the phrase fish out of water. Like, but Karloff's creature definitely like more like, you know, it's a misunderstood. Whereas this one starts off kind of misunderstood, but then he's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna start killing. Just killing, because why not? But no, it doesn't take away from it. It's still really good. They went on to do, I forget how many Frankenstein movies. I don't know how many Lee did. I know Peter Cushing, you know, wrote them all out, you know, until the end or whatever. But I definitely want to check them out. They never show Cushing get hung at the end of this. I kept wondering how they don't do that, because I'm like, he's going to the gallows right now, but they never show him. So I'm curious to see, you know, how, you know. And of course, at this point, you guys probably already know, you know, how the next one plays out. But I haven't seen it, so I couldn't tell you. But yeah, no, really good, solid, you know, thumbs up. Definitely dug it. Definitely urge you guys to check it out. In fact, I mean, this could be blasphemous. I don't know. I'd check it out before I would. If you haven't seen any of them, let's just say you somehow are like, I haven't seen any of them. Haven't seen the Hammer, haven't seen the Universal. I'm going to say go Hammer. Go fucking Hammer with it. I don't know. I liked it more. I enjoyed it a lot more. So, but yeah, overall, huge thumbs up. Moving right along, a little film called Darkness Falls, where this woman back in the day was accused of these murders, these child murders that she didn't commit. But she was kind of like a local tooth fairy. Like, you know, the kids, for whatever reason, they don't go into detail like how this got started, but the kids would bring her teeth. They're like, I got teeth. And then she'd give them money for it. Why? I don't know. And they're not upset. Townspeople aren't upset about that, but when the kids go missing, they're like, oh shit, we should have known, you know. And of course they kill her, and then of course the kids, and then she curses the town, but then of course the kids wind up being okay, like they was lost or whatever the case may be. So then they're like, all right, well shit, we made a mistake. Yeah. But the good thing about these kind of movies, and this includes like The Fog and other shit like that, is and Lords of Salem, they're like, you know what? We curse the town later. They don't even come back for these people, so it's like, So she comes back, you know, years later or whatever, as the Tooth Fairy. And I guess she's a legit Tooth Fairy, although she makes a lot of noise coming in, like it's like, don't gaze upon her. But it's like, she's making so much fucking noise, she's like, and they're like, kids are like, what the fuck? And they're looking around, and boom, they gaze upon her, and then she goes fucking nuts on them. So yeah, this first came out, because it's 2003. I watched it when it came out on DVD, so I don't know, it's 2003, 2004, something like that, around that time. And I just remember not really caring for it, like, at all. In fact, I forgot a big chunk of this movie. Like, I'm watching it now. I was going to watch it, actually, just now. Like, literally walked away from the room, came in here, turned the camera on. And I don't remember a lot of it. In fact, I got a lot of it confused with the Boogeyman. Like, I was watching scenes, I'm like, oh shit, I thought that was the Boogeyman that this scene happened in. No, I was wrong. But anyways, because a lot of the horror in those like 2 or 3 years, like the early 2000s, do kind of blend together. Like They and the Boogeyman and Darkness Falls and Darkness and I don't know, a slew of others. Cold Creek Manor, which I know has nothing to do with any of these, but fuck it, I lump it in there because it's just generic bad horror. But I remember not liking it. I just remember, and I'm gonna up some spoilers here because I mean it's over 10 years. I just remember the only thing I walked away from that movie with was I loved the ending, because at that point, and I know not just at that point, horror movies been doing this for years, but it just seemed like I was really getting annoyed with it, because every time a horror movie came out around that time, there was always an ending that had like that last jump scare, you know, they jump out the window or whatever the case was, and I was just so over the movie anyway. Like the movie was just like, oh my god, it was a chore watching it. I was uninterested or whatever. And the end of the movie, and I'm just gonna jump around because fuck it. You know, it's a new, catch a different family altogether, and there's a kid there. Of course, he has a pillar in his tooth, and you're like, well, fuck, here we go. And of course, there's a little bit of a jump scare there, but it's like it's not from the Tooth Fairy, it's from the mom. And it's like, oh, and then it just ends, and you're like, holy shit, like. They actually ended it. Like, they fucking ended the movie. Kudos. And I remember, like, walking away, like, thumbing up. Like, I'm like, you know what? The movie sucked, but I love that ending. Like, finally, it is fucking put to bed, and we're done with it. And I liked it for that. Never watched it again, like, in that entire, like, you know, how old is that? Like, 12 years? Or, yeah, 12 years or something like that. Yeah, haven't seen it since. So, yeah, so I was like, when it's on the list, I was like, I'll check it out again. And I watched it, and I will say this, it does move along pretty quickly. Like, it's like instantaneous. Like, the opening scene is pretty much the Tooth Fairy kills this kid's mom, and of course he's considered crazy. And they don't really say if he goes away or anything like that to the hospital. They do a test on him, they give him medication, whatever. And then quickly we cut to like the present, and then like his girlfriend from the day has a younger brother, which. Seems like, you know, I don't know. Anyway, she has a younger brother and experiencing the same thing. Like, you know, now he claims, like, you know, in the darkness, you know, the Tooth Fairy's there, whatever. I don't know if they're from Tooth Fairy, they're, you know, her. But anyway, so they call him up and they're like, can you come to talk to my kid, you know? And so that brings him back to the town. But like I said, it does go by very quickly. There's not really a whole lot of slowness, like, throughout. I mean, so I will say that. However, I mean, there's nothing really memorable that goes on in this movie. At all, yeah. I mean, it just bam, 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 bam. We're over. It's pretty short. Actually, just kind of reading on IMDb because I do that now. Like, if the movie's kind of lagging, I will bust the phone out and just kind of look at the facts while I'm watching it. And it says something like, you know, they added like 11 minutes. They stretched the ending credits to 11 minutes plus because it was too short, and the length it was, I guess it wasn't going to be, you know, released theatrically, and they're like, well, you need to make it longer. So instead of actually adding scenes or whatever, they're like, fuck it, we'll just stretch the credits out. And sure enough, as on Netflix, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, there's like 11 minutes left, and it's all credits. Excuse me. Oh, there's nothing to drink here, is there? Oh, wait. Oh, water. I'll take a bottle of water. Excuse me, guys. There we go. So, but yeah, no, I mean, it's very quick paced. They try to add some comedic parts in there, like little. I wouldn't really call them comedic parts, I guess, but just little jokes throughout that just don't seem to land. It's very predictable. One thing I have a big issue with, and there's two of them here. Maybe I'm just nitpicking, but I'm not gonna lie. My Darkness Falls review is gonna be very generic, so I figure I might as well nitpick a little bit. The first one is, you know, they're like, if you gaze upon her, that, you know, she will not stop until you're dead. I get that. But they're like, seeing like she'll just like pop out of nowhere and like snatch motherfuckers up. Like, they didn't even gaze at her and just snatch them up. In fact, early on, the main guy, Kyle, he gets into a fight at this dude at a bar. The bar's on a hill, so they go like over the porch of the bar and they roll down to the middle of the fucking woods, whatever. So anyways, he catches, I can't remember if he gets a glimpse of her or he hears her, but either way, Kyle's like, fuck this, and he leaves. And of course, the other guy, just a drunk asshole, he's like, that's right, you leave my woods, I ain't gonna, you know, and turns around and bam, gets like Goldberg speared off the screen. I'm like, he didn't even have a chance to gaze. Like, she was already in full motion. Like, let's just say like he did gaze before he got tackled, alright? That means she's already right there. Like, she's provoking it. She's, so, I don't know, that kind of bugged me right there, because I'm like, I can understand, like, if her job's, like, the Tooth Fairy, But if you gaze there, for some reason, the curse is like, you gaze on her, she kills you. I get that. But she's like literally running full force. And there's a scene where like Kyle's, he's arrested because like all the bodies are piling up, but it's all looking like he did it because he's the only one around, and no one's believing the Tooth Fairy's doing it. But they're in a police station. Like no one's gazing shit. They're in complete darkness. And they're looking around, and she's just fucking flying around, like, dicing motherfuckers up and yanking them up, and it's like, he didn't even have a chance to look at you. You snatched him from behind. What the fuck? I don't know. That kind of bugged me. Now, I get it. She's a rogue fucking... I mean, she's not even really a Tooth Fairy, per se. She's, it's just her gimmick or whatever. It's not like she's actually, like, officially part of, like, the Tooth Fairy Guild or whatever. Or the Rock movie, she's not part of that agency or whatever. I get that. Same time, it's like, you're going to establish some rules. Keep to the fucking rules. The other thing was the whole she can't be in the light. And I'm okay with that. Like, okay, fine. She has to be in darkness at all times. There's a lot of scenes where it's just like, she's clearly in the light. You can see her perfectly. How is she, and it kind of bugged me. I'm like, if you're going to establish rules, keep to the rules. Don't stray. The final scene, they're up in a lighthouse, and there's they flip it on, and it hits her, and she fucking she's melting and blows up or whatever. And then so they're doing the whole like, oh, it was finally over, and you're like, really, we're doing this bit? Okay, we'll go with it. So they're down there, and he's like, well, come on up here, guy, it's safe now. And then of course she snatches him up again. She brings him up, and dude, like the fucking lights hitting her in the eye and shit, and she's like not even fazed by it. I'm like, really? Earlier, a fucking tiny little nightlight flashlight kicks on. She screeches like this is the worst pain she's ever been in and flies away. This fucking, lighthouse fucking searchlight should be killing her. And she's just like, nope, I don't know. So it is shit like that. So, I nitpicked it for that. So, I don't know. Yeah. But once again, it's short. If you feel the need to watch this movie, I mean, I'm gonna say go for it. It's not bad. I mean, I'm being a dick right now. It's late and the fam's a little tired, so I'm getting extra mean and I'll throw some jabs in there. But it's not like atrocious. You're not gonna be like, oh my. It is a very just generic horror movie. Like I don't think a week from now I'm gonna even be thinking about the Tooth Fairy Darkness Falls. It'll just be like, it's gone. It's like it adds to the collection of the movies I reviewed, and that's it. Just like it was prior to that. Like even, like I said, that entire, 12 years that, it's been out, I don't think I've seen it maybe, I didn't see it at all. And I don't even think I've thought about it, Every now and then it would kind of randomly come up in the conversation. Like, you ever see that movie where the Tooth Fairy is a killer? And I'm like, oh yeah, I did see that. Didn't really care for it. And that's it. And then it goes back into obscurity. So yeah, I don't know. Wasn't huge on it, but once again, I mean, I guess, if you're just a fan of horror or just come across it one night, it's not long. Man, I don't know. If it sounds like your thing, check it out. It is directed by, I can't pronounce the dude's last name, but like Jonathan Lieberman. Went on to do, because I knew the name sounded familiar, and I thought he directed the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that was that guy, Marcus something. He actually directed the prequel, or the prequel to the remake. It's so fucking stupid. That whole timeline for the Texas Chainsaw franchise is so out of whack. But he did the beginning, which I wasn't huge on. He did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles recently. I wasn't a huge fan of that. I looked at his list, and everything on the list, like his filmography, I'm just like, I don't really give a shit about any. Like the ones I have seen are just kind of and then the ones I haven't, I'm just like, well, I'm not watching them because like he did Battle Los Angeles or whatever. It looked like shit. The only one on his list that he actually did that I liked was a short film called Rings, which was the little short bridge between The Ring and The Ring 2. They made a little short film in there. Motherfucker did that, but that's it. That was really it. But yeah, so, Curse of Frankenstein, fucking check that shit out. And, yeah, Darkness Falls, if you want to, I'm not saying I recommend it. I'm not saying don't watch it and be like, Phantom, you're full of shit. Why'd you say check it out? No, I'm not saying check it out. I'm just saying, if you do come across it and you feel like, hey, I want to watch a Tooth Fairy movie for, 70 minutes, because the last 10 are fucking credits, I say check it out. So, If not, if that does not interest you at all, I'd steer clear. You'll be happier. You will be happier. I'll tell you that right now. So yeah, boom, there we go. Guys, I'm gonna wrap this bad boy up, put a bow on it, and yeah, I'm the movie fan, and